We all, to some degree, suffer from the concept known as main character syndrome, in that we always think that what we believe is the most important thing, and it needs to be what is pushed out into the world and what everybody should be paying attention to because we think it's important, so damn it, it's important. The purpose of this video is not to tell people that you shouldn't fight for what you believe in. However, I think it's important to understand that just because you think something is the most important thing, or is even, reasonably important to you, doesn't mean that everyone else is going to agree. Specifically when we're talking about the United States of America, we live in a country of over 300 million people. 300 million individuals who each have their own ideas about what's important, what needs to be focused on, where they want the government to focus its attention. And when you live in a society with that many people, even things that I think most of us would agree are terrible things that shouldn't be happening are going to be swept aside for things that we decided are more important. When it comes to people starving in Gaza, obviously, any person with a heart and any person with any kind of moral compass is going to look at that and go, that's not something that should be happening right now. Absolutely should not be happening. And, if possible, we should be doing something to try to fix something, to try to do something about it. But at the same time, there's a reason why we don't end up doing anything about most of the bad stuff that happens in the world, and it's because we have other things that, we decide are more important. Starving people in Gaza, starving children in Gaza is absolutely horrible, but I mean, is it more horrible than the many, many starving children we have here in the United States, our own citizens who are suffering from the same kind of thing? I mean, that happens here. Is it any worse than the children who are being trafficked in what? That their lives are being a complete terror because of what they're forced to go through every day? Is what's going on there worse than that? Is it worse than the rampant corruption that we have in our government, where people are constantly stealing from us to put money in their own pocket, to build their own wealth at the expense of every person who lives here in this country? Is it worse than the continuing failure of our government to just take care of basic necessities that used to be just default things that happened, and now fires happen and entire cities burn down because we just can't seem to figure out basic maintenance? I know that when you hear about children starving in Gaza, your heart bleeds for them. It does for everybody. It absolutely does for everybody. Unless you are just a complete sociopath, you see what's happening in Gaza, and you have a moment of like, oh my God, that sucks. I wish, something needs to be done about it. But then you turn around and you go back to your life because you realize that A, there's nothing you specifically can do about it, and B, even if you get on your soapbox and try to say something about it, nothing's going to change because the people who are in charge don't change, and they don't care. The reality is that if you want to make a massive change in the world for the better, we have to take care of our own house first. We need to fix our own problems here first. Because as long as we're continuing to deal with the parasites who feed off of our country, as long as those people are continually able to trick their way into elected positions of power, we're going to continue to have the same problems that we have, and no amount of kicking and screaming and whining about it is going to fix it. If America would wake up, pay attention to the people that they're electing, find people who truly want to selflessly serve our country rather than use their positions to enrich themselves, if we as an American public could focus on that, make that our main priority, then a lot of these things that we fret about will just take care of themselves because the people in positions of power will actually do the right thing. But instead, we don't pay attention to politics, but every 4 years, or every 2 years, if you actually vote for your senators and congressmen, we don't pay attention to any of that because we're too busy with our own lives, and rightfully so. You're busy, you have things to get done. Paying attention to all of the political things that are happening, actually, monitoring the people that you specifically elected, or at least that were elected for you because you live in the district that you live in, actually paying attention to how they vote, what they're arguing for, what coalitions they're joining. Are they actually representing you and the values that you and your community as a whole has? Unless you're willing to do that and then vote them out of office when the time comes because they're not doing their job and they're using their position for personal gain, like, nothing's ever going to change. When you have a problem at the very root of the system in which you live, you can't effectively do anything else about any of the other problems until you fix the core issue. And the core issue is we have allowed our system of government to grow sprawlingly to the point where there's just no way of knowing what the hell is actually going on. And the only way to fix that is to implement things into our government that make it a massive pain in the ass to serve as a leader in our country. And yes, this is another iteration of me pushing for the last couple of videos where I said we need a Transparency in Government Act that makes it so that elected officials are held accountable via things like body cams. Law enforcement has to wear them. I don't see why our elected officials shouldn't be required to. Live cams body cams that live stream everything they're doing outside of sleep and bathroom and, the very rare national security meeting they have to have. I understand the emotional pull that these issues have. But unfortunately, running around like a chicken with your head cut off because you're upset by what's happening in a country far, far away is not going to do anything, because the people who are in charge here at home don't care. And they won't care because we refuse to hold them accountable and actually do something about it. And until we're ready to do that, none of the other issues around the world matter. Because no matter how much time and effort and energy you put into trying to save people around the world, if our leadership here, with the might of our military and the vast funds of money that they have available to them, are actively opposed to what you're trying to do, there is nothing you can do. There is nothing that you can do. We don't need another civil war to fix our country. We need for citizens to start talking to each other and saying, no, we don't want to live in a country where people use the elected positions that we have here to take for themselves and F everybody else. We don't want to live in that. And that requires average people talking to each other, not just watching a video and saying, okay, that makes sense, and then not doing anything about it. Make your own video. Get on the internet. Talk to your friends. Talk to your family. Spread the message. We talk about grassroots movements all the time. The problem is that we have become so ideologically bound to political parties that we can't talk to somebody who might disagree on a subject that we feel something about. It's like, I disagree completely with the idea of abortion, but at the same time, is my issue of abortion more important than the integrity of our government? Like, we have to have a little bit of perspective when we're dealing with these things. If you cannot talk to somebody who has different beliefs in how things should be run, and we can't all come to a basic consensus that we want our government to be honest and transparent and actually do what we as the citizens want to happen rather than what lobbyists and massive corporations and stuff want to happen, then this is what we have. It requires actually doing something about it. And until we're ready to do that, things like Gaza are going to continue to happen. The trafficking of children in our company is going to continue to happen. Rampant illegal drug trafficking is going to continue to happen. Spying on our citizenry is going to continue to happen. The problem is that we all, every single one of us, want someone else to take care of the problem. But it requires you. It requires you to at least do a little bit. And if 300 million people do a little bit, that turns into a tsunami that the government can't ignore anymore. So, as counterintuitive as it sounds, if you really want to do something to stop things like Gaza from happening anymore, we need to fix our own house first. Because we can't be effective in the world if we're fighting ourselves here. And until that changes, until we can all come together under at least the idea that we are Americans first, and then conservative and liberals after that, then we get what we get. And we deserve what we get. Because if you can't be bothered to have a political discussion with the people in your life to try to help us all come together to do something about it, then it is what it is, right? So that's all I wanted to say. Hopefully it made sense. It's not, I know it's not a positive message, but sometimes we all just need a kick in the pants, and that means you got to hear some stuff you don't want to hear. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you for the next one.